Today on Outside the Box Reviews, Predator Week continues, and today we are looking at the NECA Aliens vs. Predator Requiem Wolf Predator figures. Now, I debated back and forth as whether to do this video as a two-piece video, reviewing both figures together, or to do two separate reviews. And what it came down to is basically these figures are nearly identical. NECA released a lot of figures in the AvPR line, and most of them were basic repaints. I think there was a Xenomorph that was really hard to get your hands on. There was a Predalien that had a variant to it. And then there were the countless variants of the Wolf Predator. And before you, we have two examples of the figure. And for the most part, these are the two basic variants. I'll go into that in a little more detail, I guess. The masked version here is pretty simple. It's the masked version. He's fairly easy to get your hands on. He came with certain accessories, and they're all the same across all the masked versions of that. There's also the unmasked version of Wolf that came with a different set of accessories, but this one had at least one variant that I know of where the mouth wasn't quite as open, and that seemed to be the more common one. When they re-released these figures about a year ago, it was the less open mouth version that I found on the pegs. So I really don't know if this is a different variant that's harder, easier to get. I don't really know. But it is another variant. There are also battle damage variants, I believe, of both of these figures that came with different accessories. I believe they came with face huggers, chest bursters. There was a cloaked masked Predator that was all translucent. And there was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive partially cloaked masked Predator that was the same translucent plastic, but it had bits of the coloration of the skin popping up all over it. And I think that also came with the face hugger and chest burster. But these are the two I have, so let's take a look at them individually and see how they stack up. We're starting off looking at the masked Wolf Predator. The accessories that he comes with his combi stick, which is pretty nicely detailed. It is stuck in the extended mode, but it is well detailed. It has a lot of little fins and stuff. It has some really nice stuff on it. It has a lot of markings down the main barrel of it. It is very fragile. It's so easy to break. I am terrified. Actually, I already broke this just prepping for this review. I snapped one of the ends off and had to glue it back on, but to be very gentle with it. But it is a nice little weapon accessory for the figure. He also comes with his cleaner backpack. Not really much of an accessory, it really just goes on the figure because it has this big chunky peg here. But it's cool they gave it to us. It is a very iconic part of that movie, if you can call anything in that movie iconic. It's a very large backpack, lots of detailing on it though, I like it. We also get his med kit backpack. Very tiny med kit compared to some of the other Predators. This one actually has a hole in it that goes onto a peg on the back of the figure. Both figures come with this. This is shared between the two of them. And then he has his plasma caster, which is pretty nice. It actually does unpeg, which is kind of cool. It has some good articulation. It has a hinge down here and then a hinge up here. It would also swivel at this point. And just like in the movie, you could actually have him holding it as a gun, which is cool. But some pretty good detail on the plasma caster. So when you get this guy fresh out of the package, he doesn't have any of the backpacks on, so you turn around, you expose his back right there. And let's see, we got a peg hole up here for the plasma caster, so we could peg that right in. We have a part sticking out, which is where the med kit goes. That pops right on. And then, hardest of all is the cleaner kit, because it doesn't like to stay in there very well because it's so big. So, just got to get that in there the best you can. And then try to get his dreads back over top of it. And there you have the fully outfitted Predator. The head sculpt on this guy is pretty darn cool. I really like the way it's designed. It has a very good representation of the mask. I like the dusty kind of silver on it. It's not really clean, but it's not really dirty. It has all the ridges of spikes going around the top. All the runes carved into the top of the mask here, which look great. He's got his laser socket back here. His eyes have a mesh sculpting on them. A lot of good detail on the mask. The dreads are pretty darn long. They have just gold, simple details on them. I've been so spoiled by the newer Predator figures, it's a little disappointing to look back at this guy and remember that all his dreads were stuck together. They're all stuck into clumps around his head. I mean, you got like an individual one here, but most of them are just clumps of dreads, and they don't flow as nicely and as freely as the newer ones. Also, if you pull back, it's just a single layer and then a black painted back of his head, as opposed to the multiple layers you've gotten on the more modern Predators. He's got his trophy skull necklace around his neck, which is pretty well detailed. Chest armor here, and then up on his shoulder. You can see here is one of my big pet peeves about the figure. He has a wire connecting the chest armor to the shoulder armor. That is right on the articulation point. It's a really flimsy wire. It's gonna break. It broke on my other figure. It is destined to just snap with any movement. Once again, the newer figures, they put on these big, thick, rubbery pipes that have a hard time snapping. This is going to break. This is worthless. I mean, you almost might as well just go ahead and break it, because it's not going to stay there if you want to pose the figure at all. He's got his bandolier of the little explosive mines, which is cool. It doesn't really connect down here at the bottom. I actually thought I'd broken my other figure. This is the figure I've had the least amount of time. I actually thought I'd broken the other figure and actually glued it back down to his belt because I thought I'd messed that up. He's got his loincloth down here, some armor underneath that as well. He has a shuriken disc on there and another one on the back here. These are not removable. He's got his little wrist computer here. It doesn't open, doesn't really do anything. Fisted hand that could hold the spear. They have the little claws on his knuckles, which is a nice touch. Over here he's got his gauntlet, which this one's kind of cool. Because of the lack of articulation on this figure, they actually bury the claws a little deeper, the wrist blade. So they actually stay in pretty far, and then you can extend them out a good amount. So they really actually do look pretty cool when fully extended. I like them on this figure. I understand you couldn't do quite this with the newer figures because you had to have the articulation in the arm, and I'd rather have the articulation. But it's cool to see how far these retract. Down to his legs, he has more armor down here. I like the skin tone. I like the way it's painted up. It's a pretty simple paint scheme on him, but it's pretty cool. He actually has the tassels coming off the ties on his armor. He's got some like horned bits down here on the back of his leg behind his shin guards. And then the one thing I do kind of like about AvP is the sandals they put on the characters. The really messed up looking brutal sandals. Even though I like the bare feet look of Predator 2 best, but these are pretty cool looking. For articulation, he has, I believe, technically a ball jointed head. You don't get a whole lot of up and down. You do get a good side to side on it. He has a pin and socket shoulder, but they're very limited. You can go up a good amount, but down is limited to that. You could rotate, once again, very hindered by the sculpt. Swivel at the upper arm, and rotate at the wrist. This side I mentioned has similar articulation, but it's really hindered by that little wire there. If you don't want to break that, you're not going to be able to get that arm into many poses. No waist articulation. He has a V-cut in the crotch, which on the first one of these I had, it was so tight I didn't even know it was there for about a year. Sad as that is. He swivels at the upper leg, bends at the knee, pretty good range at the knee, and then I believe it's just a swivel at the leg. It feels almost like it could be a ball joint, but I don't think it is a ball joint. Moving on to the unmasked version. He comes with a couple extra accessories, or a couple different accessories. The first one is the whip. There's the handle here. It's got the long xenomorph tail-like appendage on it, tipped in the spike. I've never been able to tell if there's a wire in here or if it just kind of bends and sticks a little bit. I'm more inclined to say there's no wire in this, but it does kind of stay where you put it a little bit. To get it into his hand, you actually pull the handle off, and you could take his hand, slide the handle through, and then recap it right there, which is pretty convenient. I guess I might as well mention this figure comes with an alternate hand. This is the same one you see on the masked Predator, the fist. He also comes with this open hand here, and this just simply unpeg, and you could switch them out really easily. And he also comes with his shuriken, the throwing blade. This one's fully extended. I can't figure out how to get him to hold it in a way that looks good. I've seen people kind of like just pop it in his hand, and it's not sitting in a pose where he would have thrown it. It's almost just like, hey, look, I've got this. Check it out. Very brittle, bends really easily. Also afraid this thing's going to snap and break. But still, cool that they threw it in there. We check out the back of the masked Predator. His is a little different. He's got the same plasma caster the other one has, but he has two of them now. The peg hole for this is still on the Masked Predator, so you could actually put both of these on the Masked Predator if you wanted to. It's got his med pack, and then where the cleaner kit goes, there actually is a filled-in peg, so no place for the cleaner kit on this one. And as I mentioned before, everything else in this figure is exactly the same as his brother, but the face sculpt is definitely different. I'm pretty much a big fan of this head sculpt. I like the sculpting work actually on it. I like the eyes recessed in there. There's the kind of whited out eye over here. The whole side has kind of a blood effect where he's been scarred. Like he's missing his mandible. The teeth on it are really nasty and gnarly and huge. Different from any Predator I've really ever seen. Really good look inside of his mouth. The coloration's pretty good too. My biggest gripe is the way they did the face swap to switch these two heads. It's actually this whole front part came out. They remedied this with the newer Predator lines, but this whole front part was supposed to unpeg, and you peg the mask part in when they're in the factory. You can't even do it, at home. But it leaves this really ugly, big, thick line up here at the top, which I really despise. Really would have been nice if they just sculpted two separate heads. But I guess it's a cost-saving measure. I don't really like it. But overall, I like this head sculpt a lot. I think it's a really cool looking one. I like Wolf's design, honestly. I don't like that movie at all, but I do like the way Wolf looks. Overall, these figures are truly, truly a sign of the times they were made. Their articulation's not all that good. They're kind of stuck in a different stance. The detail's fine, but there's some weird inconsistencies with them, and they really are that old NECA style. I think this is more of a transitional NECA style. When they were getting into the more articulated figures, they were getting into what they are now. But they're still that kind of statuesque piece. They're not really supposed to be posed and played around with all that much. And it makes them hard to recommend. And I feel like it could go either way with recommending or not recommending them, and it could apply to either figure. I'm going to go on the side of slightly not recommending them. They're not all that special. I have them in the back of my set. I think the thing that really hurts them is they're from a pretty crummy movie anyway, and the fact that they're not spectacular figures kind of brings them down to a lower level than maybe they would have been if the movie had been good. If the movie had been good, I think I probably could have recommended these figures on that basis alone, but it just, I don't know, it just doesn't work for me. I just can't really say these are worth running out and picking up. Still, I'm kind of glad I have them, just for completion's sake. And on that note, NECA is winding down on the Predator line. We're getting an anniversary set from the original movie, and then we're getting another set of Predator 2 Lost Tribe. And then what happens to the line? As far as I know, that's the end of their plans for it. But I'd love to see it continue. I think NECA should go and do what McFarlane never really did, which is give us some good, accurate Alien vs. Predator figures from the first Alien vs. Predator. Now, I know that movie isn't really liked by many people. I kind of have it as a guilty pleasure just because it's the action parts I find entertaining. On just a very base level of watching an alien fight a predator, I kind of like it. But some of the character designs are pretty cool now, and I would like to see NECA take a stab at those figures. And I've kind of been posting every so often on their Facebook or their Twitter to do that. I've been kind of throwing my fan support out there for what it's worth. And if you guys agree with me, I'd suggest you guys do the same. I mean, NECA is pretty in tune with their fans, and I think if there was enough requests and they felt like there was enough reason to move ahead and tackle that line next, they have the license to it from what I can tell, maybe we could get some really good Alien vs. Predator figures. Those things go for astronomical prices on eBay right now, and it'd be kind of nice to get some ones at a more reasonable price. So that wraps up Predator Week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And looking at my calendar, I'm starting to realize that with doing the Avengers countdown, maybe countdowns might be a thing this summer, at least for some things. Prometheus is coming out soon. I might have some figures I need to review leading up to that. I don't know. We'll see. It's been another Outside the Box review. Stay tuned, because in space, no one can hear you scream.